I'm going to teach you how to handle your business taxes. Let's jump into it. Hey there and welcome to today's video. My name is Ricky Hayes. It's a pleasure to have you here. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button and comment down below if you have any questions. I help with everything there. Today's video is about taxes, a little bit more advanced. I am trying to make my videos more beginner friendly. Yes, I have a new stand for those wondering. Thank you. I am trying to improve my overall quality. I've got cameras and that behind me for many other reasons as well. So please just bear with me. Now, I should add as a disclaimer, I'm not an accountant, okay? So please take my advice with a grain of salt. It is seriously recommended that you should do that. Every country has different tax laws, different legalities, and different requirements for you as a business owner. Here in Australia, we have GST, Government Service Tax, where if you're an Australian, this will be very valuable to know for you, that if you are registered for GST, which cost I think about $80 to register for, which is stupid, but anyway, then you're registered, and if you're drop shipping items from China to Australia, you still have to pay GST because the items here in Australia, for an example, if it doesn't touch Australian shores, if it's from China to America, you actually benefit and make extra profit because it's a business expense. You claim that back on tax, but you don't pay GST on it. So retrospectively, you actually get 10% of that product purchase back. It's like a cashback program. It's actually quite funny. Now, for me, I can't really avoid that because I import a lot of products to Australia. So, you know, if you're in Australia, it's not a bad thing. Just keep that square in mind. If you're an American, I know most people that are watch my channel are American. Obviously, you're going to be looking at LLCs and various other forms of business structures down there. Now, to explain, America, again, obviously is different to Australia. You know, in Australia, we have multiple different types of business structures. You have sole proprietor, then you have partnership, you have trust, and then you have company, okay? Now, everyone strives to be a company. Company is technically the best, and it's the same for in America, I believe, with like LLCs, is that you have the main perks of a company is you pay a flat rate in tax, okay? So here in Australia, it's 27.5%. I believe in America, don't quote me, but I believe that's like it's 22, 23%. But then you have state taxes as well. So it's actually kind of complex in America. I know that a number of clients that I've had, you know, you might only pay sales tax in your specific state. But I'm not an expert in that, so I can't 100% comment. But it's important that you understand as well that, like, if you're not from Australia, if you're from America, Canada, as much as we'd all like a similar tax system, it's not going to ever be. So I want to teach you some skills on how you can find a good quality accountant. I would 100% advise that you get an accountant. For me, my accountant has cost me, I think about $1,000 for a full year, and he's fantastic. He has saved me a lot of money and clarified a lot of things. I'm not an accountant by profession, so by having someone that knows that is incredibly valuable, and it really teaches you and opens your eyes as to how a business works, because you're going to move up through the thresholds, okay? Most of you are going to start as your own business or sole proprietor or entrepreneur. Then depending on what your country's structure is, you're going to move up into, for instance, here in Australia, you could move from sole proprietor to partnership. If you've got a business partnership, can be a little bit messy. And then you got a trust fund. And then you also got like a company. Now, the way that I'm structuring mine is I have a company and a trust. And the reason that I do that, I don't believe trust is something that's a universally used related business structure. Is a trust is you can delegate your taxes accordingly. So my partner works and I have my own business and she helps with it too. And basically here in Australia, like most countries, depending on the threshold of your actual taxable income, so being, let's say, $100,000, depends on the tax bracket that you sit in, okay? So what I mean by that is that your tax bracket, actually, let me just show you. All right, lovely. So I'm on like the ATO, for instance, and you can see you got the tax thresholds here, right? And so this is for 1920 as of today's date being the 9th of October. So you can see here in Australia, if you earn under 18,000 gross, you don't pay tax at all. I mean, yeah, tax evasion. I would love it. Anyway, but then as you move up into the different tiers, you know, you start to pay a lot more. And this is if you're like a sole proprietor. I made the mistake early on of not starting to transition into a trust and company. And so it cost me a lot in tax. Such is life. You learn from your mistakes. But, you know, you can see how much of a difference it makes. You know, you pay 32 cents in the dollar. So it really adds up, all right? You know, I paid well over 50K in taxes for last financial year. And that's just the way it is. And don't be worried about paying taxes. I've always taken the perspective, actually, to be honest, my father taught me this. The more taxes you pay, in theory, the more money you're earning. So don't fret paying taxes. It's a pain, but it's a really important business, really important thing to learn about life. So you can see why that's important. And what a trust does is, let's say you have to be like in some form of relationship, and of course for that to partly work, business partnership as well, is that, so let's say I earned 95,000 and my partner earned 20,000, right? Between the two, what's that? That's 125,000 or whatever. Let's say 120,000. I earned 90, she earned 30. Sorry for my maths right now. And so right now I would be in the 32 cent and she would be in the 19 cent. Now what could do, because I'm just over that, I could try and move, right now I'd be in this bracket, but I want to try and move into this bracket, okay, in between 37 and 90. And so I might be able to make it. So between the two, we're earning 120, but I'm on 95. I could take off 7 of mine to make it 87, and she would be on 37, let's say, as a perfect example. She'd be on still 19 cents, but instead of me being on 37 cents, I'm on 32.5 cents. Okay? And the importance of that is that can relate to thousands of dollars in tax that you have to pay a year that you just put in your back pocket. All right? And that's where an accountant can really help you with delegating that accordingly. In addition to this, having a company, now it doesn't cost too much to set a lot of these up in Australia. Like a trust is annoying, but it costs like $1,000, and a company I think it was $1,200. You get this massive book. It's just ridiculous, and it costs $500 a year to run. And the government's very strict on it, the ATO. Anyway, and the way I'm structuring it is you have a company, you have a trust. So because if you have a company, you're a director. If you're a trust, you're still just a person in that trust, and you control it. Whereas a company, the ASIC, Australian Security Investment, I can't remember what it stands for, ASIC, which is Australia's third-party governing board around taxes. They manage that. And it's the same, very much the same, I believe, in most countries where there's a third-party board that's meant to manage it. It's not to say companies can't get away with paying a large amount of tax. When you're a huge company, they know the ins and outs with accountants that know how to use the books properly. And you can look it up. There's massive companies that make billions of dollars and pay like less in tax than someone just working a 9-to-5 job. It's I don't even know how they do it, but it's insane. So but the benefit of having a company is you pay a flat tax, and you get director income, or dividends is what they're known as, and but you pay tax when you get that dividend out regardless. Now the main benefits of a company, as I said, is the tax as well as liability. When you have a trust or you're a sole proprietor or a partnership, you are individually liable, all right? Whereas if a company goes bust, the company itself is liable. Now, it's a bit confusing, but that's really important, because if you get a lawsuit, if you, whatever, the company takes the liability. It's like becomes its own entity. And that's why companies are so strictly monitored as much as possible, because of their own entity, and you can have that as a liability. So you can put your policies, you can put your trademarks and that against the company as opposed to you. Then basically you become an employee of your company as a director, okay? Director or CEO. By having a trust fund connected to it, you get the money in, the money comes into the trust, and then I can delegate some out. Because if you do it via a company, it's a lot harder to get the money out because you need to live, right? Whereas if a trust, it's easy to get the money out. And then the trust, the remaining money gets transferred into the company. And again, the benefit of that being is that you pay less tax, less liability, and you can defer tax for longer. One of the biggest benefits of a company, this is what huge companies do, is they're all about deferring tax liability. Many of you probably have been in a workplace or whatever. There's a specific reason why companies only allow you to have a certain amount of annual leave, long service leave, things like that, because it's a liability for the business. And they want to try and stretch it out so that it's not a massive amount of money that has to come out of a pool of money straight away. And it's the same thing when you're talking about taxes in general. Companies have the money in the company, and then you buy a car, you buy office equipment, stands, and the company pays that as tax, but and you have to pay tax on it anyway, especially when your income, but you can defer it for longer. Okay. Now, again, I'm not absolutely perfect explaining it, but by deferring it longer just means you have more money now and you can invest that more into maintaining and growing your business. And you do have to pay those taxes, but obviously over a longer period of time. I look at it like you have a mortgage. Okay. So, as opposed to paying $50,000 up front, you can pay $50,000 over 10 years and you're like, okay, that's manageable. All right. Such is life. Payment plans are very important, and deferring things really helps with, you get to the same endpoint, but it makes it a much smoother journey. Okay. So that's why companies are so important and why I wanted to bring it up. When should you make a company is a fantastic question. Here in Australia, my accountant always said, once you earn about $100,000 profit, you should be at least looking at a trust. You should be possibly then looking at a company as well. Okay, so every country is different based on thresholds. Just ask an accountant what profit margin, how much profit should I be earning in my financial year? So here in Australia, financial years is from July 1st to July 31st the following year. So every country is different. And ask them what profit should I be expecting to then make, go from being just someone with like a registered, IRN in America, or here in Australia, an ABN, to then making it into an official company with legal paperwork, and then so on and so forth. That's the easiest way I've found to get around that. All right. Now, how you find these accountants is actually really easy. I just use Upwork. So this is just my Upwork account. I made a freelancer account when I first started years back, so I don't know how to delete it. Anyway, but and you can see here, I've just literally typed in, I just went accounting. You can go bookkeeping, so they can actually do the bookkeeping for you. I don't have a bookkeeper. I do it myself. I'm a big advocate for learning things myself and applying things myself. I genuinely enjoy it a lot more. And once you get on top of your taxes, it's just day to day. And so I've got a little note here. I'll spend like 5 minutes, or no, maybe not 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a day, and log into I'll show you in a moment, my Xero account, where I can just reconcile records. All right. And it's really, really, really easy once you know the process. And once you learn it, then it's simple. I still recommend having an accountant, but you don't need a bookkeeper, because as one of the hardest things with being an entrepreneur, drop shipping, is it's a lot of a gray zone. In most countries, it's very gray, and it's one that the government's starting to crack down on more. I've been somewhat audited in that a bit myself, because I've made a good amount of profit, and it's something the government's taking more interest in, and so we need to, as business owners, take that very serious. Very, very serious. So have an accountant that can help, keep things in alignment and keep the boat going steady. So I just looked at accounting and consulting, and I just typed in here, in this instance, Australia. If I put in United States, there's tons of them. And every country is going to have different software that they recommend. So CPA, MBA, IRS, Certified Public Accountant. Oh, that's what it stands for. You got QuickBooks. So a lot of people I know use QuickBooks. There's MYOB. I use Xero, and I'll show that one again. I know there's plenty out there, so there's no shortage of tax-related solutions out there. I use Xero because I use a lot of its functionality. I use it on the top tier plan of $65 a month as well. So I know a lot of people use QuickBooks though, and it does the job. So they're all web-based and they're all pretty easy. But Xero, I know, like for instance, the Tam brothers, I read a comment, they use Xero because it really is, it's an Australian startup, I believe from Melbourne, and it's fantastic. If you run a business where you have employees, it can do your payroll, it can do SuperStream, it can do a lot. It's very, very useful. And as you can see, a lot of people have certified. You can actually become a certified Xero expert. So I would be looking for these people. Now, don't be stingy when you see these like prices. Okay, don't be like, oh shit, that's a lot. Oh my god, I can't do this. Certified advisor. Mine is from my where I actually live. He's a very good accountant. You can also type in Google accountants near you. Accountants near you. Near me. So like, I'm from Bendigo. You can see here straight away some Google ads, lead group, HR block I know is one. You got plenty of them out there, and you can see just in my proximity just how easy that sort of is. Okay, so nothing to really worry about there whatsoever. Now, as I said, I use Xero. Now, this is not an affiliate, this is not a promotion, this is purely what I use. And as I said, I use the pricing structure of the top tier plan. It's got $10 a month. I use the top one. So, I have all the features, and I just write it as a tax write-off. I look at it that, for what's that, $700-ish a year. It's very inexpensive, realistically. I do a lot of quoting in there, pay contractors in there. And what's cool, what I love the most is, and this is what I mean by you don't really need a bookkeeper. If you use a piece of software like this, you can do it yourself. It actually has rules in it. So you can actually run rules that say, all right, well, if I'm consistently getting an Upwork bill every week, this from Upwork is this classification, is this reconciliation, and you just click OK. So you jump in, OK, done, OK. Your 4 or 5 expenses or incomes a day, done. You don't need a bookkeeper, you can do it yourself. That's why Xero is so popular. The other thing I should add as well is I love how, I can invite others. So I have my accountant in there, business partners, blah, blah. It's iPhone friendly, integrates with Zapier, Slack, all of them. So it's very easy. It's secure, it's supported, web-based, everything you sort of need as an example. And you can connect bank accounts. So not all banks, as I said, but like, if you can connect your bank account, it pulls the feed in. Otherwise, you have to do it manually. And I would recommend whichever solution you go for, try and find that, because that saves you so much time. It pulls it in at midnight in my case, and then I just pull it in, and it says these need to be reconciled. Done. Any anomalies, I just investigate, and that's it. And then the best part is, because I'm registered for both GST, obviously, as well as I pay BAS, business accounting something, I can't remember. I pay quarterly tax. That's just how I prefer to do it. We're in September, so we've just passed October. We've just passed the July to September quarter, and so now I'm preparing my tax. And the hardest time was originally getting everything set up in Xero. This time, because I've just kept on top of it daily, it took me about 10 minutes. My accountant's like, "Yeah, you owe this much." I'm like, "Sweet, I owe it in a month and a half." I don't pay my taxes until the last minute because I'm like, "Screw you." Basically. That's what I do. And with rules and using more automation, getting the hang of it more, in the next quarter, it might go from 15 minutes to maybe 10, maybe 5, and maybe my accountant will just not even message me and be like, "Yep, you're done." So it ends up, okay, so, I'm spending about $2,000 a year, but it's much cheaper to do it this way by having an accountant that does the bare minimum and helps you regardless, and having a piece of software than just having an accountant and bookkeeper. Trust me, you'll be spending probably double to triple that. And it'll be a lot more painful. This way you have control. You can do easy reports. This guy has a ton of reports. Okay, ton of reports that you can use. All right, and it's good for small to medium enterprise. So for most of us, it's absolutely perfect. And I would recommend, investing in one of these tools. I did it a bit manually to begin with. I'm like, no, never again. It was valuable, but I wouldn't do it again. Okay. So that's what I would do there. If, you can either find an accountant in your area or an e-commerce one online. Very important that the accountant, if you find one that's international, all right, that the accountant, knows international tax laws, because my accountant is a fantastic accountant. However, he won't take on clients from overseas because he doesn't he doesn't feel comfortable enough, I should say, in actually taking on international tax related laws. It's not his absolute speciality, which I respect. So if you are actually an Australian, you do need an accountant, hit me up. More than happy to help. He's fantastic. Brendan, I think he's a great guy, and I'm more than willing to pass those details on. Anyway, and that's it. Like, taxes don't need to be confusing. Okay, taxes don't need to be hard. Again, please take this with a grain of salt. By no means am I saying that I am absolutely correct. I want to make a disclaimer. I am not an accountant. I am giving you just some ways to find out how to find them, and giving you a greater understanding of how a tax system work. Although it's different in every country, there's a lot of overlap, right? Fundamentally, they're working off very similar principles. So I can help you to communicate and find an accountant. Now, I want to add on top of that as well, just as a bit of a side note. So people ask me as well, I just wanted to add this in. People ask me, so what do I do with my profits? Now, I record in this same room time and time again. I live 80% of my life in this room. I love to work. I'm a workaholic. If I went and actually got diagnosed, I would actually be diagnosed as a workaholic. I genuinely love to work. I have little to no desire to travel, sports cars. Like, I think they're cool, but I'm like, nah, I prefer work. All right. Now, so what I do is I'm a big advocate for passive income. I do affiliate marketing, and I'm proud of that. I only promote things that I genuinely use and are good quality. And then there's something that I love as well that I've been into for years. Many of you asked about the stock exchange. Now, every stock exchange is different. This is the Australian Stock Exchange, the ASX. There's the NASDAQ. I can't remember half the others. But there's, plenty of them out there. And, the world, regardless of how we like to perceive it, is founded on the share market. The share market dictates the way our economy grows, very much correlated to it. All right. And so there's a huge amount of money to be made, but you have to really know what you're doing. I am not an expert when it comes to shares. I would definitely say I'm very good with shares compared to most people I would know. Like, understanding the minute details, I understand quite a lot, but I wouldn't understand a huge amount. But what the approach I've taken is I put my profits, because I have a very minimalistic lifestyle aside from spending on my business and socializing, gym, just little things. I put most of my profits into the share market, because what I love is I can just be like, call up my stockbroker, and I use a company called Baoyu Holst. I keep forgetting how to pronounce it, but whatever. Baoyu Holst, and they're a stock accounting firm, and stockbroking firm. Anyway, and I just call them up. Hey, I want to buy shares. I want to buy this share. Blah blah. They give advice. They send out daily reports, and I can read it. I don't read them all the time, but and what I aim for is companies that pay dividends. Okay, just like an actual your own company that pays you dividends. You can find, like, if we put in NAB, okay, as an example, National Australia Bank, one of the pillars of Australia's economy. Okay, we can see that, like, blah, 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 blah. They did quite well recently, and it's drawn down because of the economy. Now, where is it? 6.5%. Now, that's going to fluctuate like anything in life. However, that's 6.5% yield, okay, dividend yield. What that means is if I have $100,000 in shares of this, okay, so let's say I have $100,000 in actual shares of this product, whatever that relates to in units, because that's one unit, I get 6.48%. So I'd get $6,480. Does that make sense? And And, you have franking credits, but whatever. But basically, that's what I do is I'm not an amazing share broker by any means, but so I invest my money into companies that are what's known as blue chip. And I would advise you guys start doing the same, because what I'm now doing is building up passive income into other huge companies. Like, these people have like 30, 40,000 employees. They're companies that are never going to disappear. Okay, that can make me money year round with no work involved at all. I focus on my daily life, my business, my passions, and then a couple of times a year, because dividends are generally paid every 6 months. Different companies structure it different, but generally it's twice a year. Anyway, and you get a dividend payment, so you'll get half of this twice a year. So you'll get $3,000 twice a year, 3.5 or whatever, type thing, 3,200. So, and as a result, I can keep building that up, taking my profits here and putting it into shares, and then getting money from there, and it just keeps coming around. All right. So, and the thing that's the best part with shares is, I want to answer this question because I know a number of you are probably going to say, Ricky, why don't you invest in real estate? Why don't you invest in real estate? Real estate's the best thing ever. I get that a lot. I understand real estate a lot, but I don't touch things that I don't feel comfortable with. And that sounds really, really wrong. But I just don't touch things that I don't feel comfortable with. And real estate does not align with my core principles. What I mean by that, for me, is real estate can be very much hands-off. You can get a real estate agent, you can have a number of properties, and it's hands-off. But then you have all the insurance. You have the insurances, you have... I know the agency will help keep tenants in there, but you have to have tenants in there. Like, if you have 5 rentals and only 2 of them have tenants, you're not going to be making money on the other 3, are you? It's a physical object, okay, that I understand is a very good moneymaker. I know a lot of people very, very rich from real estate. It is a very lucrative market. But for my personal goals, I am a digital entrepreneur. I love digital. I love everything digital, because then I have complete control, pretty much clarity. I can don't have to worry about it burning down type thing, right? Insurances, so on and so forth. It's very easy. And the other biggest thing that I've always said is, I saw some other YouTuber's video where he bought a home, and he's, after expenses and that every month, even with his mortgage, he's going to be making about, I think it was $300 profit a month. And that's great. Good on him. It's amazing. So that's about $4,000 a year, right? Now, and let's say that he put that, let's say the property was $150,000. Let's say $100,000, okay? And he's making $4,000 return a year. If I put it in this, I make $6,500, and I don't have a home to worry about. I don't have to maintain it. I don't have to do anything. The company makes me money. And as a shareholder, you get added benefits of like cheaper bank accounts. You get to go to their shareholder meetings. You got all this info here, so on and so forth. And shares can go down, but I want to reassure people, so can property prices. If anyone's here from Australia, they'll know that Melbourne and Sydney have exorbitant house prices, and they've been going through a correction. So I want to make that very clear, that there's no such thing in life as something always going up. It's always going to go down at some point. If we look here, if I would have sold my shares then, as opposed to now, I could have made thousands of dollars just from selling them, but I'm after the dividend. And so I know that, like, this was the economy doing well for a bit, and it's going back, and it'll stabilize, right? Such is life. And I've always taken the perspective that the economy will always do fine. The monetary system is never going to go. It's going to go through corrections. And I want to reassure people, if the economy goes bad, it's not just shares that go bad. It's everything, including property. Okay. Now, I know that everyone always needs a roof over their head. That's the logic behind it. I get that. But that's why I invest into companies that are huge companies that focus more on me making income yearly than share price growth, because then I can rest more easy at night, okay? So that's just been my perspective, and that's how I do my taxes, and that's how then the profits after I pay my taxes, I invest. Now, maybe I might get into real estate in the future, but I've always looked at it that by me doing this is quick, it's easy, it makes me a huge amount of money. I'm very happy, I'm very content, and the other best thing is, if I ever need the money, let's say I need $10,000, I can go to my stockbroker, say, sell 10,000 of these shares. 2 days I got the money. If you got a home, you got a mortgage, you can't do that. I mean, you might have an overdrawn account or whatever, but you don't have that. Whereas this has complete flexibility. And I've always found this to be a very unique strategy that I've found very successful for me. So right now, for those wondering, I'm up to about $23,000 a year just from this. I invest also in higher risk companies. So $23,000 I get a year to do nothing. Okay, to do nothing. All right, and so I want to get that to 50,000, 100,000. Imagine making $100,000 a year, literally doing nothing. All right, that's the dream. Right, so that's what I'm pushing towards. It's not easy. Life isn't easy, but it's very rewarding. So I hope this has been very helpful anyway. I know I went a bit off topic, but I wanted to provide some really high business stuff that I feel that will really help you guys give some perspective of where you should put your profits and why you should do it that way, and help you go in the right direction on where you need to be. So I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you have, be sure to subscribe for more content. I hope you like my new sort of get up. Give me a like if you like my new get up, and comment that down below. Comment crush it in the comments below to go in the chance to win a 30-minute call. Today's winner will be announced also in the description, so be sure to check in the description if you are the winner for today. On top of that, guys, don't forget to join my free webinar. There's links in the description down below. It's for about 60 to 90 minutes. You're going to absolutely love it, where I'm going to be with you live. So once again, guys, I hope you all have a lovely day. I hope you take care, and goodbye.